Welcome to Allies or Enemies. I'm Jess.
And I am Sean, and today we are talking about Space Lab, and our copy was provided for review, but the thoughts in this video are all our own.
Space Lab is a 1 to 4 player game designed by Johannes Goupy and Corentin Lebrat, and it is a tableau building game that has you playing cards of astronauts and equipment to build your International Space Station. Let's take a look at how it plays.
You start the game with 3 capsules, each filled with an objective tile and a bunch of space for cards. On your turn, you can either take cards as long as you have less than 5, either taking 3 cards from the deck and keeping all in one color and returning the rest to the recruitment area, or taking all cards in one color from the recruitment area. Or you can play cards by discarding the number of cards in the top left corner of any card you want to play, and then placing it in any empty spot adjacent to one of your capsules, keeping in mind bonuses from the bottom of your capsule for certain cards, gaining project cards from the top of your capsules based on your card cost, fulfilling the objectives in the middle of your capsules by placing certain colors, and any synergies with other cards that you've already placed. The game ends once one player has either fulfilled all 3 capsule objectives or filled their lab with 10 cards. Then you count up points for each of the 10 cards, as well as from validation tokens on your completed capsules and points from collected sets of project cards, and then the greatest space scientist is named.
I think one of the interesting parts of this game is how you get cards, because you're either taking the top 3 off the top of the deck and you can keep all of one color, or you're selecting of the available market one color and taking all of those cards. But it can be risky to look at cards because you could be adding a lot to the market.
Yeah, at first it sounds really simple how you're doing that. And I'm sure this isn't the only game, but this is the first game that I've seen this specific way of drafting cards in. But it is more interesting than you would think because, yeah, like you say, every time you take cards, you're almost certainly adding something to the market. It's really rare that you're going to pick up 3 cards of the same color and get to keep all of those. So you're almost certainly adding something to the market. And that could very well set someone else up because it's definitely better if you know you want green cards. It's way better to take 2 green cards out of the market than to risk picking up 3 cards and maybe getting no green cards at all. So you really don't want to add cards to the market, but you are going to for sure. And it doesn't build up that much, but it builds up enough as well. And it's a nice kind of back and forth between when you're taking from the market, when you're drafting from the top of the pile.
Yeah, no, it is. And it's interesting because you can always take cards as long as you don't have 5 or more cards in your hand. So what that means is if you see that there are 2 or even 3 cards in the market, even if you were like, oh, I was going to play next turn, but if you have the space for it, you're going to take them because you don't want to leave those available for the other player.
Yeah, especially if you have 4 cards, because when you take those cards, it's when you take the cards you can have 5 or more. So if you have 4 and you take cards and that brings you up to 7, fine, that's no problem. You're allowed to do that. And then next time you play, you got a ton of cards that you can choose between and you can use to pay for those other cards. So that's kind of the perfect situation to have 4 and then to manage to get a whole bunch at once. So you got to be kind of watching people so you're not setting them up for that. But also you can watch for people that, oh, I see Jess has 6 cards in her hand, so I'm fine. I can put these cards in the middle because next time she has to play, and it's going to come back to me to take those cards back before she can get to them. So there's that as well, but that is going to change at different player counts.
Yeah, because at 2 players, it means that you'll be next, so you can leave those cards. At more, it means then you're setting somebody else up, but you are very much keeping an eye on everybody and making decisions based on what options you want to leave for people. Because I've had times where, I've really wanted a red card and I draw 3 off the top, there's 1 red and 2 blue. I'm going to take the 2 blue because I don't want to put those back in the market.
Yeah, and it is mostly open information as well. You are going to have some cards in your hand that you've drawn that people don't know what those are. But you do know what colors people are looking for because that's super clear. You can see that in front of everybody. And you can see that they're going to want these cards to trigger those bonuses on the bottom of those different capsules as well. So you've got a pretty good sense of what people are going for. So you definitely know what not to leave, but also sometimes it's just out of your hands.
So you will consider what cards you're leaving available for everybody else, but obviously you're going to take the cards that you need because you're building your tableau and trying to find the synergies between the cards. And the cards score in a whole bunch of different ways. First of all, they all have different types, and then there are scoring cards that score for those types. So I might have like a whole bunch of astronaut helmets and a bunch of cards that can score for that. That's also similar with colors, where you get scoring cards that score per color. So if you get a whole bunch of that, that could be really good. And there's also just cards that score like a whole bunch of points on its own.
Yeah, and those point scoring cards, obviously that's just points, and points is, not surprisingly, how you win this game. Another one of the categories of cards are these ones that score for ones in their row. And those ones are a lot harder to pull off, but they can score huge points, because if you get like 3 of those wrenches in a row that all score for that row, they're like 12 points each, some of those. So that can really change the game. Another thing that changes the game that you have to think about amidst all of this other stuff is the cost of those cards, because a big part of this game is really the pacing of the game, because you've got those big like 3 cost cards, and those are going to get you most of the points. Those are really the ones that are going to have that point scoring that you're talking about for the astronaut helmets, for the color, for any of that stuff. But you also have those little 0s and 1s, and a big part of the game is that race, because you have got those capsules, and all of those have that goal in the middle of those, and you want to score that, and it's a race to get to those capsules first.
Yeah, because whoever gets it first gets the top scoring tile, and that's going to be most valuable. And for 2 of the 3, if you're first, you also get a bonus of an additional card or a project card. So you definitely want to try and get there first. So you will be keeping an eye on what all of your opponents are doing, because if I know Sean is doing the center, I might think, okay, well, I'll focus on the right one and try and get there. And it goes down in value. So if you're playing with more players, it may not, well, it's definitely not as valuable to like race to try and get the last tile. It's only going to be worth a couple points.
Yeah, because in 4 players, some of those bottom ones are worth 3, maybe even 2 points. In 2 players, however, they are still both of the top ones, because you just use the top 2. Those are still worthwhile. So that is one of the ways that it changes for player counts. But another way is just that race that I was talking about, because you can, if you want, you can play those 3 cost cards, get all those points, or you can just play a lot of little 0s and 1s and then really race to the end and just fill up everything, count on getting the top tiles for your different sections, and hopefully that's enough points.
Yeah, because if you've played like all 10 of your cards and the other player has only managed to put like 5 of them down, that may have given you the edge for sure. And also another spot that you're playing cards are on the top and bottom of your capsules, and the bottoms will give you bonuses. So it might be that if you match the symbol, you get a project card, or you get another card, or you just get points. And more interestingly is the top, because on the top, you get to take a project card, but you get to look at the number of project cards based on the value of the card. So if you play a 3 value card, you get to look at 3 and select one of them, and that can be incredibly valuable because you're trying to get specific sets.
Yeah, and there are some of those, I think there's one where you need 4 in a set, and that's worth a ton of points. So you can also kind of risk it a little bit, like it's a little push your luck, where there's one that only has 2 in a set. That's going to score, it still scores like 10 points, but it's going to score quite a few less than the ones that have 3 or 4 in a set. There's also ones that are kind of a one-off as well that are going to score based on the symbols or based on the colors or whatever it is. They score a little bit less, but they're kind of guaranteed points too. So that is another aspect of all of that scoring that is going on in this game.
Yeah, and so it does lead to a lot of scoring at the end, but it's quite nice that they have a scoring pad that really walks you through it all. So even though it takes a little bit, we haven't found it too cumbersome.
And speaking of those modules, those give a really nice kind of centerpiece for the game because those obviously like anchor your tableau. They give you something to build around and they just look really cool.
Yeah, they do look really cool. They're really nice and shiny. And the pieces in the center that tell you what cards need to go around, those slot in really nicely. And I like that they aren't attached because it gives a lot of variability as well. And I like that that kind of space shiny look is throughout the game too, because the box is nice and shiny, and the box looks really cool too because it has like this pull tab that you open up with everything that is like nicely stored.
Yeah, for a game that's mostly cards, I think they've done a really good job on most of the production really, and I really like the cards as well because every single card has individual art and each one of the suits, each one of the different colors of cards as well, ties to a different continent, or at least kind of seems to. And I really like that because it really builds towards this whole International Space Station feel, and you do feel like you've made a cool little ISS.
So this game does remind me of a lot of other tableau builders out there, and it's not a surprise because both of the designers have worked on previous tableau building games, but it brings a few new things to the mix. One of the things I really like is how you draft the cards, and if you're choosing to look at new cards, you're likely adding more to the market and making that more appealing for other players. But I also like the pacing of the game quite a bit too.
Yeah, I do like the pacing in this because there is that kind of push-pull of, do I want to play those big cards, which are going to score me a lot of points, but I'm only putting out one card on this like card playing round, or do I want to play 2 or even 3 of those 0 or 1 cost cards where I'm paying less cards, playing more cards, and racing to both get the bonuses from those modules and to end the game, because whoever finishes their tableau first, that's it, the game's done.
And the end can also come if somebody completes the 3 center objectives. So a viable strategy could be that you rush the end by playing a lot of low value cost cards on your turn and surprise everybody else who thought they'd have 1 or even 2 more turns to go.
Yeah, but you also, just if you play those big cost cards and you get those combos, we've had games where you tried that to rush the end, and I still beat you because I just got a lot of points out of making those combos as well. So there really are a lot of different paths to victory. We've played this, I think, 5 or 6 times now, and I don't think that there's been 2 games where I've really done the same thing, because also there's quite a big deck of cards, and so you're just going to end up with different stuff that is available to you. You really can't do the same thing twice, and just the variable of having those different modules, how those are going to shake out, how the color combo and also the bonuses on those, all that stuff is going to switch stuff up every game.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the mini like project cards add yet another layer as well, because some games I haven't played cards with a lot of high value, but they've given me more project cards, and by ending up with a bunch of those, I was able to complete a lot of those sets too. So there really is like a whole mix.
Yeah, I will say though, going into these, because this is the same duo that made Far Away, and I was thinking, oh, is it going to have like a real groundbreaking scoring thing like Far Away has with that how it scores backwards thing, and it doesn't really, but it is still like, this is a really fun, cool, quick 15 to 20 minute game. It's going to play a little different each time. It does that tableau building thing. It doesn't necessarily do that super differently, but I think having those modules and having like those visual components does make quite a difference too.
Yeah, it is a really nice looking tableau building game that has, I think, like enough interaction between like how you're getting your cards, how you're racing for the completing the center objectives, while also getting the opportunity to focus on your own tableau and the different cards you're getting and the different sets and different directions that you can go. And it can be a really satisfying puzzle.
And that is it. Have you played Space Lab, and what other tableau builders have you recently played? Please let us know in the comments.
As usual, please like, subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you next time for another game.